So people think that, oh, if only I had a better job, if only I had a more productive wife, somebody that would make dinner for me when I came home, if only my children would behave a little bit better, if only I lived in a place that wasn't so rainy and dreary, then maybe I'd be happy. If only, fill in the blank, with whatever it is that you think, then I'll be happy. That's not how life works. Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Cassie Rose, and my channel exists to give you practical tools to help you pursue your passion. And today we're going to be talking about a question that I have seen quite frequently. So we're going to be carrying along with the trend that we have the last few videos of answering commonly asked questions on YouTube. And this one is, how does discipline lead to happiness? Or how can discipline lead to happiness? I absolutely love this question. Discipline is a hot topic in my life. I think that word is so powerful and it can be misconstrued to be so negative, but really it's not. And so I'd love to talk about how discipline can lead to happiness. And before we get into this video, just remember to subscribe down below if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so that you can always be notified whenever I post a new video, and you can gain all the practical tools that you need to live your passionate life. Also, if you like the concept of this video, feel free to give it a like down below, and let's get into it. So our question today is, how can discipline lead to happiness? I, again, just want to have a conversation with you about this because I think that is where we learn the most, when we're just kind of talking to people about our thoughts. And I have a lot of thoughts on this topic. It's something that I have pondered for a very long time, but also I've noticed that this self-development, discipline, self-discipline, these concepts have been floating around a lot, not only with the older generation, as they often have with different people like John Maxwell, Stephen Covey, writing different books about how to really create the life that you want, but also in this newer generation, especially with YouTube and Instagram, there has been a rise of personal development as a fad, as a trend, as a lifestyle, whatever it is, whatever person is doing it, it's become really common. And I've noticed that for myself, it's always been prevalent in my life because I had really big dreams. And you may be like me, you may have these really big dreams and you want to really discipline yourself to be able to reach those. And whether it comes naturally or not, discipline is an integral part of reaching the goals that we have. But a lot of times it has a very negative connotation. Discipline is seen as this negative consequence when we've done something wrong. Like if you've been disciplined by your parents, you often think of discipline with a negative lens because it comes after you've made a mistake. So discipline, defined by Google, or whatever website this is defined through, definitions from Oxford Languages, the practice of training people to obey rules or codes of behavior using punishment to correct disobedience. The second definition, though, is a branch of knowledge, typically one studied in higher education. So these are two very different definitions. Obviously, we can see one has a negative connotation. It is when we have broken one of those rules of conduct. But really, if we dive deeper into what that means, it's training yourself or another person training you through consequences to obey rules or behaviors. And we can view that as negative. We can view that as inflicted by other people, or discipline can be self-inflicted. We can inflict discipline on ourselves, and it doesn't have to be negative, but we experience consequences regardless, so why not look at this really practically? Discipline can be, as we see in this second definition, a branch of knowledge typically studied in higher education. So sometimes people will say, I study the discipline of law, or I study the discipline of medicine. That is a commonly used phrase in those higher branches of education just to define what you're studying. And the discipline is gaining knowledge in a situation. And so if we combine these two definitions, we can really see that it is teaching oneself to obey rules in a certain realm of knowledge so that you can experience positive consequences rather than negative consequences. And when you break those rules, then you experience the negative consequences. So if we go back to looking at how this affects our lives and how it can make us happier, or how can discipline lead to happiness? Really, there's just one definable feature that I see. There's one thing that I see that allows discipline to lead to happiness. And what it is that discipline creates circumstances conducive to a happier existence. Discipline creates circumstances conducive to a happier experience. Let's map out the day of two different individuals. We'll start with Bob, and then we'll go to Bill. Bob wakes up when his alarm goes off, and he hits snooze 3 or 4 times, and it's about an hour and a half before he needs to go to work. So by the time the alarm goes off, it's about an hour before he needs to leave to go to work, and he gets up and he goes directly to the coffee machine, makes his coffee, sits down, reads the paper, realizes, wow, I need to go to work, and gets dressed really fast, maybe takes a shower, and hops in the car and leaves. He doesn't bring a lunch, he doesn't eat breakfast, and he is going to get there just on time. Now, when he gets to work, he is tired. He has not fueled his body with sustenance. He has not eaten, and he is groggy because he didn't have an enjoyable experience while waking up. He didn't get to fill any of the necessary tanks emotionally, physically, mentally, in order to have energy to sustain him throughout the day. So Bob gets to work, he sits down, he's a little fuzzy, but he gets going, opens his emails, goes through a few things, and by 10:30 or 11, his stomach is rumbling and he is starving. So he goes to the break room, they have some donuts, he eats a donut, he gets another cup of coffee, and then he sits down. He gets a little burst of energy from that sugar, and then he goes through and works until lunch, eats a big lunch, and comes back afterward tired and full and groggy from the sugar crash of the donut and the full meal of lunch that he had. And the rest of his afternoon is spent with him trying to convince himself he can be awake enough to get through the day and then go home. And he repeats that every single day. This is how Bob runs his life. He gets up too late. He doesn't take care of himself. He goes to work. He doesn't take care of himself. He finishes work, goes home, probably watches TV, goes to sleep, and then does the same thing. I don't know about you, but that does not sound very enjoyable to me. Now, a lot of people find a lot of joy in the idea of sleeping in a little later every day. I know we all love sleep. You know, even if you're a night owl and even if you want to stay awake late, by the time that the morning comes, you want to sleep. Personally, I'm a morning person and I still love sleep. I wake up in the morning and I don't always want to get up. But we can see that for Bob, this did not really pay off with the best of consequences. The consequences of his actions are that he is tired, groggy, grumpy, not motivated, not energized, all of these things, and Bob is not having the happiest of existences. Now let's flip the script and go look at Bill. What does Bill do? Well, Bill goes to sleep at about 9:30 every night because he knows that he wants to get at least 8 hours of sleep. Then he gets up at 5:30, goes for a morning run, takes a shower, reads a book, eats breakfast, maybe spends some time doing something that he enjoys, and then he's ready to go to work with some time to spare. So on his way to work, he might drive by and grab a quick coffee at his favorite coffee place, place that he enjoys the environment, he enjoys the people, and then he'll make his way over to work where he is ready to start the day. He's not in a rush, and he sits down and embraces the day ahead of him. He gets through the morning because he ate a very nutritious breakfast. He gets to lunch and eats a salad and chicken and whatever it is that he wants for lunch, and he fuels himself intentionally. And then for the rest of the day, he has his time blocked out, he finishes his tasks, and he's able to clock out at 5 and go home. Where he goes home, maybe he'll spend time with his family, maybe he'll exercise, maybe he'll do a hobby or something that he loves, and he'll take care of himself and then go to bed at 9:30. When I think about Bill's day, I am reassured, I am relaxed, I am happy for him, and I'm sure that he is too, because he used discipline and he used systems for productivity in his life that allowed him to make room for the things that he's happy with, the things that make him happy and the things that make him not miserable. You know, the consequences of his life are good things. And so when I look at this, I think about what are the disciplines that he put in place? Well, he went to sleep earlier, woke up earlier, still got 8 hours of sleep, so he had a good amount of sleep too. Early, 8 full hours, healthy breakfast, ample time in the morning, wasn't rushed, healthy lunch, scheduled his tasks and his meetings, and went home and relaxed, really unplugged. These disciplines made room for his happiness. Now, these two people are completely different, but they could have the exact same circumstances. They could have the same home, the same family, the same job, the same office, the same commute. They could have all the same circumstances. And sometimes those circumstances are things that we cannot control. So people think that, oh, if only I had a better job, if only I had a more productive wife, somebody that would make dinner for me when I came home, if only my children would behave a little bit better, if only I lived in a place that wasn't so rainy and dreary, then maybe I'd be happy. If only, fill in the blank, with whatever it is that you think, then I'll be happy. That's not how life works. And if I'm the first person to ever tell you this, I hope that you take it as kind words from a friend. Your circumstances are never, ever going to make you happy. Happiness is based on what's happening, okay? So we could very easily think that our circumstances would make us happy. However, if we find happiness only from the circumstances outside of our control, we will never feel fulfilled in life because we can't control everything. The world has unexpected twists and turns, and if we're waiting for those things to make us happy, we will always be disappointed. 100% of the time, we will be disappointed if we are waiting on the circumstances of life to make us happy. But when we allow discipline to be the fuel for our happiness, then we can understand that these are things that I can control. I can control the food that goes into my body that makes me feel great or that makes me feel terrible. I can control how many hours of sleep I get at night by just deciding to go to bed earlier and wake up earlier. I can control how I respond to my family in situations, which can in turn affect how they respond back. I can control if I am getting to work 15 minutes late or 15 minutes early just by leaving the house earlier. There are things that are within our control that can completely transform the quality of our lives, and that is how discipline can lead to happiness. So how does this affect us as passionate and productive people? We have passions in life. We have things that we want to accomplish. By far, we have so many things we want to accomplish in life, and we are passionate and motivated in a way that's going to allow us to put disciplines in place. So how can these disciplines affect us as passionate and productive people? Discipline is a system. Discipline is a series of systems that we put in place in our life to affect and make room for our joy, for our happiness. Now, I do want to clarify, when I say joy and happiness, those are two different things, which can be a totally other video one day. But joy and happiness are different. Joy comes from this decided and cultivated contentment in our hearts that cannot be taken away based on circumstances. And if you are of the Christian faith, as I am, you would understand that joy is fruit that grows. You know, it can be watered, it can be nourished, but the fruit grows because that's what the tree does. Apple trees produce apples. Orange trees produce oranges. Now, if you are nourishing the tree in your life that produces joy, you're going to have joy. You're not going to have an orange from an apple tree, okay? So joy comes when you nourish it, but it cannot be affected by different circumstances because once it grows, it's there. Once an apple grows, it's an apple, okay? Nobody can take away that apple's identity. It is an apple. You can't just look at it and say, this is an orange. No, joy is joy. It cannot be taken from you, and it cannot be changed based on circumstances or based on people's opinions. However, happiness can be interpreted from the circumstances in our life, and I do believe that happiness is a decision. And when we decide to be happy, we can find deeper fulfillment and deeper happiness from the circumstances in our life that we cultivate through discipline. And discipline leads to a happier life because we are deciding to do things that are going to make us happy. And we're going to decide to avoid things that we know will not make us happy in the long run. Even if the long run is 12 hours from now, when that donut makes you crash and feel terrible and you regret it because you're going to gain weight and you've been on a diet and you don't want to do it anymore, but you keep eating the donuts. We're not going to do that anymore, okay? As passionate and productive people, we have the ability to decide to be happy and to decide to put discipline systems in our lives to produce room for our passion, to produce room for productivity and for life. I really highly encourage you to think deeper on this. If you journal about this. How can you put discipline into practice in your life? What things can you do to discipline yourself to produce the type of happiness that you really want to experience? And then decide that you're going to do it, and then decide that you're going to be happy. I hope that you enjoyed this topic. As you can probably tell, I am very passionate about. I am very passionate about this idea that we have full control over cultivating happiness in our lives. And if you have any comments on this, please comment down below. Let me know what you think. If you completely disagree with me and you think everything that I said is trash, please comment down below and let's have a conversation about it, because I would love to learn just as much as I hope you would love to learn. So help me, and we can learn and grow in this together. Please help start a conversation down there. If you liked this video, give it a like so that I know and I can make more similar to it. And if you have not already, subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified every time I post a new video. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next week. Bye. I sat down to make this video with a different cup of coffee. The moment that I went to pick up my iPad, I dumped it, fell everywhere. It's really sad. But don't worry, I made another one, and I'm fully caffeinated. Okay.